This is so
It's funny that we're not eating it.
Come on, man. Give stuff away. Come on, man. Give stuff away. Come on, man. Give stuff away.
So you have taken over Man vs. Food. When you kind of came into something that already had a structure, what was the most surprising thing to you about filming? You know, what happened behind the scenes that you weren't really expecting?
The previous show was on for 4 seasons and it was off the air for 5 years. So just plainly, it was a lot of, it was big shoes to fill. But getting my feet wet, it was how fast it moved. We start off, depending on what we're doing that day, we start off talking to people in the restaurant about the restaurant. And then we're in the kitchen talking to everybody in the kitchen, talking to the chef, and then preparing said meal. And so it was just the pace of it and getting used to that pace, And then not only do I get to talk about the food, I get to eat the food too. So it's like, they're all win-wins.
And did you have to eat things more than once? Like, were there things that would happen where you're like, whoa, this is not what it looks like on television?
Yeah, well, I guess in the very beginning, they wanted to get me comfortable with what I was doing because, they didn't want a character, unless they wanted Casey, talking to chefs, talking to patrons, and tasting the food as I would. So I guess being myself was maybe difficult in the very beginning because as an actor,
you don't want to be like, hello.
Yeah, like sort of robotic. But no, it was really kind of, as soon as I was told that, it relieved any sort of tension that I might have had, and I just kind of started playing as I normally would.
Come on, man. Give stuff away.
You've eaten a lot of great food on camera now. What is the craziest food you've eaten off camera? Like, what did you eat before you started the show where you just thought, like, man, that's nuts?
It was really interesting. Recently I had the opportunity to go to Morimoto, and I had never been there before. And the sous chef there was my sushi chef at a restaurant that I worked at when I was in my early 20s in Times Square, Full Circle, at Ruby Foods, which is a Be Our Guest group. And that chef, Chef Omai, became Morimoto's sous chef on Iron Chef. To answer your question, it was live shrimp. So, as they call it, I believe, sweet shrimp. So they're basically tiny rock shrimp that are essentially alive. So they're kind of squirming. Not a huge fan.
Interesting texture. It wasn't your jam.
Yeah, it wasn't really my jam. I mean, I might revisit that. This is like 15 or so years ago. I'm dating myself a little bit, but yeah, it was just a little funky for this monkey, So. Yeah, my palate has changed since then. It's been a long time. I'd probably be into it, but I'd rather it be cooked.
Yeah, which we like our food cooked.
Give stuff away. Come on, man. Give stuff away.
Now you've been able to travel all over the country. That's one of the benefits of filming the show.
Amazing.
What do you think the best food city in the U.S. is? And keep in mind, I am from Charleston.
Jeez, it's a loaded question. Went to Charleston last season, the first season. Wonderful city, the freshest seafood I think I've ever tasted. I sat on a dock with a gentleman named John Henry as we peeled shrimp for the restaurant called The Wreck. If you're familiar.
Yes.
We peeled shrimp across a marsh where at the shrimp place where they brought in the shrimp that day, we were peeling them for the restaurant across the way. So that's the freshest seafood I think I've ever tasted in my life. The sweetest shrimp I ever put in my mouth. That being said, because you're from Charleston, I gave you a nice little plug there, but it's hard to say, because every city has something really unique and dynamic to what they're doing. Like, I was able to go to New Orleans last year twice, or this year twice, which was super powerful for me, not only for the food scene, for the music scene. So, the cool thing is I've been able to go to so many cities that I've never visited.
Right.
Now I have, a broader stroke of places that I've eaten. I might need some more time to answer that question in full detail, because I really believe that every city has something unique to offer, especially with tradition. Like, I went to Pittsburgh, and going back there again before the holidays because the food scene is just off the charts.
Give stuff away. Give stuff away.
Is there any food that you don't eat? Live shrimp excluded.
Yeah, live shrimp, not on the top 10.
Is there anything that someone would hand to you and you would just be like, I'm out, can't do it?
No, actually. No, I mean, if it's for human consumption, sign me up, because...
Right. What is your definition of food?
Right, exactly. For human consumption. That's food.
Yeah.
There's really nothing that I'm not into or willing to try. Like, being a young person and moving to New York in my early 20s and working in the restaurant business, that gave me some courage to just open up opportunity to eat, because I was working in restaurants, so you had to try the food. If you wanted to work there, you had to try the food. Like, if you wanted to at least know what you were talking about, talking to people that knew a lot more about food than you did, your patrons, New Yorkers, you need to know what you're talking about. So that was important to me, and so it still is very much important 20 some odd years later, to know what I'm talking about, or at least experiment and to be open to that, you know?
Right. Well, I hope no one watches this and then is like, here, I've got some like cow tongue to give you.
Yeah, cow tongue, very tender if cooked right, you know, if you know what you're doing with you know, some things get a little,
Like
you know,
awful.
a little funky when you get into the knuckle region, you know, a little sinew and gelatinous stuff gets a little weird texturally, but you know.
You make those words sound like what they are, like the sinew.
Yeah, there's a little, you know, there's a little, yeah. Not every day, but very much like the show, I'm not eating foods that we're eating every day. These are foods that we crave. So, you know, I might crave chicken feet, you know?
You never know.
Give stuff away.
So you've been an actor, you've done comedy.
Yeah.
Do you find comedy in food? Like, can you, as a dinner party companion when you're eating, do you find comedy in food?
I think eating and coming together as a group with friends and family is hilarious because food is just like, food is what's just on the table for a lot of places. It's usually what happens around food. So food is the witness to the crazy, you know? It's just, you know, the accoutrement or what the company is.
Taking that metaphor further, then you are like eating the witness.
Right, eat the witness. Don't be the witness,
Yeah.
eat the witness.
And tell us about this dish that we have in front of us.
So I've been coming to Brooklyn Star for several years, been friends with these guys for a long time, and friends of mine introduced me to Brooklyn Star. And it's a neighborhood restaurant with some southern flair to it, and it has great steaks. So we're looking at a 45-day aged T-bone we have our pan drippings, and on top we have some foie gras and some marrow butter. So this is kind of melting.
Pretty
What
good.
we want to do is pour a little bit of this on here. These are pan drippings.
Yeah.
And then here's some potatoes, and then we have a wedge salad. We'll put a little bit on the wedge salad because this is what you're supposed to
Is
do.
any left?
Yeah, this is a little wedge salad. Has bacon fat croutons, some hard-boiled eggs, some onion in there, delicious. And then here's some shallot, some rendered fat, some thyme, and some bay. Put a little bay on there, and this is what I've been told is the best way to have it. This is how I've always had it. Kind of a little bit of everything.
So this is the life of hosting Man vs. Food.
Yeah, this is an example of how it is
How your everyday life is.
my one day in the life. This is just a day in the life, Allie. And here at Brooklyn Star with our 45-day aged T-bone.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
I think you should
we'll
have some.
get started on this.
Yeah.
And if you want to watch some crazy shenanigans all over the country, watch Man vs. Food. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Amazing.
All right. I was going to say,
Shenanigans.
like, we'll cheers with our
Cheers.
steak. Ta-da.